What is going on, everybody? It's the Franz, and we're here for our AEW Rampage and Smackdown review for February the 25th, 2022. We are 1 week and 2 days away from Revolution. Wow, what a time it is to be a professional wrestling fan. While on SmackDown, it has been made official. We are getting a unification match. We are getting Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, title for title, winner take all unification. Now, before we get into all the reviews and stuff tonight, we got some things to talk about. First thing first, Tony Khan, for the last few weeks, has been touting that he has got this massive announcement that is on the same level of the first dance with CM Punk. Now, what could that be? Nobody knows. Tony Khan himself has said he's been under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so he hasn't been able to talk about it, but he can tease. Now, apparently, he's going to make this massive announcement on Wednesday night. So, we had a good night of wrestling coming up on Wednesday. The go-home show on Wednesday for Revolution, and then a big, massive announcement. It's going to be a very, very newsworthy week. What can this national announcement be? It could be anything. It could be they could be him buying Ring of Honor, buying the tape library, saying he bought the tape library and also got a streaming service for AEW for them to have and all this and a bunch of other things. New Japan and AEW and Impact and the NWA could be coming together for a super show. So many things can be impossible. We won't know until Wednesday. But of course, I can't go anywhere else and start anywhere else without talking about the big elephant in the wrestling room this week. As it has been made official, Claudio Castagnoli, aka Cesaro, has officially left World Wrestling Entertainment. For the last 11 years, Cesaro has been one of the most underutilized, underappreciated talents that Vince McMahon has on his roster. Everybody from me, you, and everyone else has been wanting to see Cesaro as world champion. Get that main event run that every one of us knows he can do. Vince McMahon would never pull the trigger. The closest he got was last year, facing Roman Reigns, and even being in that program to begin with, after Daniel Bryan pretty much gave him his blessing to go after Roman Reigns after Daniel Bryan was off to leave and on the way to All Elite Wrestling to have the Dragon come back, the American Dragon come back. This one, I am not surprised. How could anybody be happy in the position Cesaro has been in? Everything they gave him, he made it work. From being the guy who came in wearing the leg strap, those leg wraps, to as a former rugby football player, man who always reminded us that he speaks so many different, 6 different languages, would speak in those 6 different languages on, how to say hello, goodbye, hi, how was your day, all of that. To the team of him and Tyson Kidd. Hell, his feud with Sami Zayn in NXT it started before the network, but they had a nice feud that helped NXT explode into the mainstream when the WWE Network came into existence. He's teaming with Tyson Kidd. That was great. Unfortunately, of course, everyone knows the Samoa Joe injury that happened when Samoa Joe took on Tyson Kidd in a dark match that I don't know why it happened. I don't know if Vince McMahon was trying to punish Tyson Kidd or something and make him go out there cold against a guy like Samoa Joe. I don't know what happened, but he ended up breaking his neck and almost dying. Thankfully, he did not. But that ended that tag team, and those guys were a very popular group. Everything Cesaro did, it got over with the fans. The Bar. Cesaro versus Sheamus. Two guys who were at each other's throats for months. Mick Foley, in 2016, as the general manager of Monday Night Raw, put these guys in a best-of-7 series. That went the full 7 matches, and then the 7th match went to a draw. Mick Foley was like, I see potential in you guys. I'm putting you guys together as a tag team. You're going to become a tag team, and you're going to get work together and be a great tag team. And they got over. They were great. The Bar was one of the best tag teams in professional wrestling at the time. They don't just set the bar, they were the Bar. They were great. 3 4-time tag team champions were the ones to break the New Day's tag team title reign, the longest reign in WWE history. But again, WWE split them up. And it wasn't that they split them up in a feud. One was kept on Raw, one was sent to SmackDown, or the other way around, and they split them up that way. No fanfare, and we only really got resolution to that this past year when you had Cesaro versus Sheamus and a match against each other, and Sheamus was taunting him and saying, "You always held me back. I was the better of you," and all that, and then Cesaro piped up and said, "You were a brother to me." That was the closest we got to any blow-off to the breakup of the Bar. Going back a few years, the Real Americans, even though he's from Sweden, the Swiss Superman, being in a tag team with Jack Swagger called the Real Americans, guys who were supposed to be heels, would do the We the People, and the crowd would do it with them. Hell, when AEW started, people would still do We the People to Jake Hager. Cesaro got himself over, got anyone else who worked with him over. Cesaro was a 5-tool player who could have been a multi-time world heavyweight champion if anybody else ran WWE. No, Vince McMahon saw nothing in Cesaro. Daniel Bryan saw what we saw in Cesaro and wanted to work with him back when he was still with WWE, and he had the ability to pick and choose who he got to work with. Go back a few more years again. John Cena, when he was the U.S. champion and he was in the U.S. Open Challenge. That dude went out there and Cesaro entered, and Cesaro and him had a banger. Didn't end cleanly because, of course, Kevin Owens was feuding with John Cena at the time. But everything Cesaro did in this company was amazing. The dude could do no wrong. And all Vince McMahon saw him as was a lower tier guy. And it sucks. We all know Cesaro could be worth something more. Cesaro, I honestly don't think he's coming to AEW. There is no reason for him to really come to AEW. AEW's got enough talent right now. AEW's got to figure out what to do with Jay Lethal. They got Brody King in here now. Keith Lee just signed. They're bringing in Jeff Hardy. They got the talent, but Claudio Castagnoli is going to show up. Him and his old tag team partner, who only had one interaction together, not even a tag team match, but when Cesaro and NXT UK, I believe it was, went to go help Cassius Ohno, they got to do the big spots at Kings of Wrestling spots. They're both now free. They might show up at Terminus 3. Kings of Wrestling versus the Briscoes. Kings of Wrestling versus Santana and Ortiz. Kings of Wrestling versus FTR. Something like that. Outside of AEW. That would be fucking great. Cesaro could go to the NWA. He could go to New Japan. He can go anywhere. Fucking, I know Jay White's doing this US of J tour, and he wants to face Real Americans or whatever. But I would love to see Jay White versus Claudio Castagnoli. I think it would be fantastic. Jonathan Gresham, as the Ring of Honor, like a OG Ring of Honor champion versus Claudio Castagnoli at the next Terminus. Could you see it? I could, and I think it would be fantastic. Ring of Honor is going to be coming back for the, Supercard of Honor or whatever it is in April. Maybe Claudio could be on that show. Now, there's not to say Claudio could still show it back in WWE. It could be, it's all down to whatever type of money. But honestly, if I was him, I wouldn't go back to WWE. No matter how much they pay him, he's not getting a world title match. He's not getting a world title run. That title is if they really, truly, for sure, unify those championships, that title is not coming off Roman Reigns until next year. Next year, after he beats The Rock at WrestleMania, if they even get The Rock at WrestleMania. We don't know what's next for Claudio. I hope he doesn't go back to WWE, but this also begs the question, what is WWE going to do? They lost Jeff Hardy at the end of last year. SmackDown takes a hit. They just lost Cesaro. SmackDown takes another hit. When is Vince McMahon going to look at the man and listen, his group going to be like, listen, we don't have enough talent on Raw and SmackDown to sustain this brand split. We have to unify the tag titles, the women's titles, and the world titles. The U.S. and Intercontinental titles should not be merged. They should be separated as long as they can be. And I'd say that forever. But they need to go out there, unify all these titles. Honestly, have Becky and Bianca, Ronda and Charlotte on night one. Have those titles won by Ronda and Bianca. And then on night 2, do a unification match between Bianca and Ronda. And obviously, one of them is going to lose, and that's probably going to be Bianca. So you did all this for nothing. Honestly, if you're going to do that unification match, just have Ronda Rousey and versus Becky Lynch on the next night after Becky beats Bianca, because there's no reason to have Becky lose to Bianca if you're going to do a unification match. And then Ronda beats her, becomes the WWE Women's Champion, and the Usos take on the Alpha Academy or RK Bro in a tag team unification match. Unify those titles. You have one singular tag team champions, women's champion, and world champion, with Roman beating Brock. If you want to keep the brand splits, then unify the titles and have those titles float around. You have one tag team championship in the women's division, and they can float between Raw and SmackDown. They really haven't, because you don't have any, even though we do have, I guess, a challenge now for those tag team championships, which we'll talk about that when we get to SmackDown. But yeah, WWE's got a lot to think about and a lot to go before we get to WrestleMania. And unifying every title, but all the titles but the mid-card titles, is probably the best way to go. I know Seth Rollins put it out there on Raw about unifying the tag, doing a title for title tag team title match at WrestleMania. Probably should go down that route. Same thing with the women's, even though you have the women's Royal Rumble already. And we'll have to wait and see. But when it comes to Claudio, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Hell, the guy might take a month off. He might say, you know what? I was paid well in WWE. I was very good with my money. I don't know if he was or not. I was really good with my money. I'm going to take the rest of February and all of March off, and I'm going to spend time with me, my loved ones, and let my body rest up, heal up, and my body, my heart, mind, and soul, my body, my mind, my heart, and my soul can all be rejuvenated by April to go out there. And there's a lot, and this is the thing, April, WrestleMania weekend, there's a lot of indie shows. Impact, I think, is doing something. I know WrestleCon's going to probably be back. You're going to have all these independent shows. Claudio could be just, you know what? I'm going to take March off. I'm going to take the rest of February off. I'm going to let my body heal. And then I'm going to make a couple appearances I'm going to be at WrestleMania weekend, but I'm not going to be there for WWE. I'm going to be at these indie shows, and I'm going to make my return to the independents on some of these shows. Could you imagine? Claudio comes from WWE, disappears for the month of March, not seen anywhere, keeps himself quiet, and then starts showing up at WrestleCon and all these other wrestling, independent shows. I think that would be fantastic. We'll just have to wait and see, but it sucks that he was never a world champion in WWE. I think that is one of the most criminal things that could happen in WWE, that this guy never won a world championship. But we'll see what goes down the line. For all we know, he could be signed to WWE by the end of March, by the end of February, which is in a few days, by the way. And all this was for nothing. We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about... before we do, there's news that came out. WrestleVerse was tweeting out about it, I believe, that Pat McAfee is going to be in a feud for WrestleMania. Vince McMahon is going to be in a feud in a program for WrestleMania. WWE is desperate. They just lost Cesaro. They fired over 200 talents since 2020's scamdemic began. Wow, I wonder what would have happened if you would have booked Keith Lee right, booked Karrion Kross right, booked John Morrison to not be a clown, brought his wife up, and had that feud with Miz and Maryse versus John Morrison and Tyra Valkyrie. All these other talents that they got rid of, Tegan Nox, Shotzi Blackheart. Do they even have enough women to do a Battle Royal this year? I know they didn't do one last year because of COVID and all this stuff, but if they want to do these Battle Royals again, which I don't think they're going to, I don't think they have enough women to do a proper one. But all the talent they released, all the talent, like Toni Storm left WWE. She could have been a cornerstone to be one of the leading women in this division when Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha all bid their goodbyes in the next 5 years or so. But they just let all this talent go. All this talent is gone, and WWE is now bringing back Vince McMahon, apparently, for a match, or a feud, or something. Now, it's a feud, it's a program going into WrestleMania. It doesn't mean Vince is going to wrestle. For all we know, it's going to be Vince in Theory's corner versus somebody else going into WrestleMania. Who that is, I don't know. There's also a prospect of Stone Cold Steve Austin. WWE is just desperate. Now, as also, Pat McAfee is supposed to be starting a feud soon. Did not tonight. Apparently, there was plans of him possibly doing that. Pat McAfee, in his 2 matches in NXT, was great. Here's the thing. Pat McAfee wrestled for Triple H's NXT. He was in there for the first match with Adam Cole. Adam Cole, one of the best to ever fucking do it. This, just one of the best of the best to do what he does best. To then him, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch versus the Undisputed Era. Gee, I wonder. He was protected both times by some of the best workers in the fucking game. So they were able to hide his strengths and bring on his hide his weaknesses and boost his strengths. Will WWE be able to do that at WrestleMania? I don't know. Who would he feud with? I don't know. The only person I could see Pat McAfee even having some kind of feud with is fucking Baron Corbin. Because outside of Sonya Deville, which you're not going to do an intergender match at WrestleMania, just not going to happen. He talks more shit on Baron Corbin than anybody else besides the person named Sonya Deville. So if Baron Corbin wanted to take his rage out on Pat McAfee, I could totally see it. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. We got a few weeks left until WrestleMania. We got little over a week left till Revolution. Let's talk about some Rampage. Rampage tonight had Serena Deeb's 5-minute rookie challenge. Warlord versus Nick Camarata. Face of the Revolution qualifier. Orange Cassidy versus Anthony Bowens in the main event. And Sammy Guevara versus Andrade El Idolo. And a contract signing before the AEW Women's World Championship. And we'll talk about what I say needs to happen in that match for the Women's Championship to finally be rescued from one of the worst championship reigns in professional wrestling history. It's up there with the Great Khali and Jinder Mahal, and you can't tell me otherwise. So, this show did one thing that I think wrestling shows used to do back in the 80s, back in the early 90s. That the main event was the only match that got entrances. That's what happened to you. We had Serena Deeb, not really gotten any entrance. We had the Andrade vs. Sammy Guevara, which they gave those entrances out on YouTube. If you actually paid attention to AEW's YouTube thing, they apparently had it set for watch these guys make their entrances or whatever. But yeah, they started the show off with Sammy versus Andrade. No entrances at all. That's fine. If you're going to do that, that's fine, but be consistent. Don't do 1 week where you're going to have everybody make their entrance, and then the next week don't have anybody but the main event make their entrances. Make up your mind. If you want to do it this way, that's fine. So, the match starts off in Andrade. We started with the TNT Championship. Sammy Guevara versus Andrade with Jose, the assistant, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy. The story of this match was Matt Hardy tried every underhanded tactic he could to help Andrade steal the TNT Championship from Sammy Guevara. But every single one of them backfired. Every single one of them. Now, the match started off, these guys went for the finishes early. We had a chance at the hammerlock. That turned into almost GTH. Both guys broke out. Andrade offers a handshake. Sammy Guevara says, fuck you, and gives him a middle finger. Andrade backs on Guevara into the corner with some chops. Guevara hits a dropkick and sends Andrade to the outside. Guevara catches Andrade charging back in the ring and plants him with a Spanish fly for a 2 count. Picture perfect Spanish fly. Guevara climbs the top rope, but Andrade cuts him off. Andrade climbs to the second rope and pulls Guevara up with him. They trade strikes, and Guevara kicks Andrade off the second rope. Guevara goes to springboard cutter, but Andrade pushes Guevara back to the rope, and picture we go. Back from break, Guevara nearly catches Andrade in a small package, but Andrade kicks out. Andrade goes for a suplex, but Guevara escapes and takes down Andrade with the clothesline. With the knee strike, Guevara tries for the GTH, but Andrade escapes, misses in charge in the corner, and crashes to the floor. Guevara lands a dive over the top rope and onto Andrade. Now, so Andrade was getting pissed off. He was getting fed up. He's like, I'm done with this shit. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab this turnbuckle, and I'm going to tear it off. And he's, he's fiddling with it. We've seen guys just go over and just rip the damn thing off. He's fiddling with it. He's like, you're looking at it, he's like, there's no way this dude's going to tear this off because it's a distraction. So Matt Hardy on the other end could just pull his off, and Paul Turner wouldn't see it. Turner stops him, but Matt Hardy actually does remove a turnbuckle pad behind his back. Andrade misses a running double knee in the corner. Guevara hoists up Andrade for the GTS, but Andrade rolls Guevara out with his feet on the ropes. Hardy, there was debate here because it looked like Hardy it looked like he was possibly trying to hold Andrade's feet on the rope so he gets the win, but it looks like he pushed off Andrade's foot off the bottom rope. Commentary speculated for the next few minutes on what actually happened. They couldn't really answer, and the replay doesn't really answer the question either. So, it's a case of Matt Hardy was probably trying to grab his foot, and it slid off, or he's secretly trying to screw Andrade, and this is going to lead to the breakup of the AHFO as Jeff Hardy is on his way in. Yes, I know, on a podcast a couple days ago, Jeff Hardy pretty much said, I'm going to AEW. Then he had to backtrack a little bit and say, nothing's set in stone yet, because nothing can be set in stone. Which, honestly, Jeff Hardy should not have said that, because Jeff Hardy is still under 90 days no compete for another few days, for another 2 weeks. And if WWE actually wanted to take that seriously, they could look into Jeff Hardy talking to somebody as he's telling us that he's going to AEW, and apparently he must have a contract signed if he's had talk with Tony Khan, because legally, Jeff Hardy and Tony Khan cannot have any conversation about a contract until his 90 days is up. So that's why he had to go up there and go, you know what? Nothing is set in stone yet. He had to backtrack. Anyway, Guevara takes down Andrade with a super kick, goes to the top rope. Andrade cuts him off and elbow strikes. Andrade escapes and kicks Andrade and it kicks him off the second rope. Andrade lands Sami kicks him off the top second rope. He lands head first onto the exposed turnbuckle. Jericho says Guevara did ask him not to intervene in the match tonight. Guevara hits a springboard cutter that gets in the pin on Andrade, and he retains the championship. After the match, Matt Hardy attacks Guevara. Darby Allin and Sting run down the ring, beat up these guys, and pretty much say, you know what? You made the challenge on Wednesday, then you're on. Now, I was wondering, why is this match happening? This just feels so random. How are you going to take the TNT title and put it in a trios match that makes no sense? And then I remembered that this is probably a late game scenario because they brought Buddy Matthews in to join the House of Black. Escuro and Pac are at a 3-on-2 disadvantage. And I think what was going to happen is that if Phoenix was ready to go by Revolution, they were going to have Phoenix make his return this Wednesday, and we would get a 6-man tag team match at the pay-per-view between the House of Black and the Death Triangle. And since that match isn't happening, Tony Khan decided that he wants to have a 6-man tag anyway, Tornado style. Maybe it was going to be the same stipulation, and that's why we got this match. This match still feels random. So that is what's going to happen at the pay-per-view. Back from break, QT Marshall's on stage. He's chewing out Taz over his recent actions of Hook. Not happy at the fact that Hook has pretty much just said, not giving him a thanks. He's talked about training Hook and trying to teach him respect. He wants Hook to come out and thank him. Says, see, told you this guy doesn't have the balls to come out and confront me. Hook's music finally plays. Hook finally comes out. He don't give a shit about this. QT Marshall, the coward he is halfway down the ramp. He's calling some of his students over to take out Hook. Hook just wastes them all. Hook lays them all out. He just turns around and walks to the back like he doesn't give a flying fuck about anything QT Marshall. Which is very interesting because you know that for most people, it would be, yeah, I beat your boys up, now I'm going to come get your ass. He's like, I don't have time for this. I was in the back, sitting down, watching the show, enjoying myself, eating my chips and everything. And you want to call my name out? I'm going to fuck your guys up. And I'm going to go back to my chair, back to my couch, back to my chips, and back to watching the event. Because I want to watch the main event. That's basically how Hook is. Looks like. So, backstage, it's Dan Lambert, Ethan Page, and Scorpio Sky. Lambert says that he demanded a TNT Championship match for Sky. Lambert says he was assured Sky will get a shot before the winner of the Face of the Revolution ladder match. And that's basically it. I really don't care about this at all. Wardlow versus Nick Comoroto. Again, no entrances for these guys. Comoroto powers down Wardlow to start, but Wardlow kicks up and takes Comoroto with a suplex. Comoroto tries to power up Wardlow, but Wardlow escapes and then catches Comoroto and throws him over the top rope to the floor as we go to the picture-in-picture. Back from break, Comoroto hoists Wardlow up for an press slam, but Wardlow escapes and chokeslams him. Looks for a powerbomb, but Comoroto reverses it. Wardlow reverses that and hits a powerbomb and follows with a second one. He starts conducting the crowd, who are going absolutely nuts for all this. Hits a third one, and then he barely gets a fourth one up. Like, dude, it's impressive that this guy got 3 powerbombs up. Like, try to hit a fourth one on a guy like Nick Comoroto, who's no small man. I'm like 6'1", and I probably weigh less than a paper bag. Wet paper bag. And I could probably, like, Wardlow could probably powerbomb me like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before he gets tired. Nick Comoroto is like twice my size, and that motherfucker is somebody that Wardlow just powerbombing not once but twice is impressive. But 4 times, you can tell by that 4th powerbomb that Wardlow was very fucking tired. Like he was out of the strength because he pulled Nick Comoroto up and just got him about halfway and just barely got him down on his back. I was like, when I saw him not get him all the way up, I'm like, oh shit, this could go bad. Because he could have went for the powerbomb, and Nick ended up going out flat, down, like back to like flat against his legs, and he would have power driven down on his head. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Wardlow gets the win, of course. Aaron Solo, who was on the outside, jumps Wardlow, but gets caught. Wardlow flips him up for a powerbomb spears, then hits him with the chair while he's in the powerbomb position. Solo falls to the mat. Wardlow got hit in the hands, and he is not happy. Spears takes him back and says, "Man, I gotta be honest with you. No one else wants to, but the powerbomb symphony, it isn't working. It's not getting over. He wants Wardlow to get back to bases. Just beat the man. One powerbomb, that's it. No more of the powerbombs than that." He says, "You have so much potential. Me and Max are so proud of you." Says he gives Wardlow a hug, and Wardlow is not happy. That beatdown of Shawn Spears is going to be so beautiful when it happens, because they know it's going to happen. Because before Wardlow gets to Max, MJF, he's going to have to go through Shawn Spears. And when he beats Shawn Spears down for every single thing that Shawn Spears did, all the insults, all to try to steal his spotlight, it's going to be fantastic. Trinity versus Kayla Sparks. She beats Kayla Sparks in like 3 minutes. Who cares? After break, we get a contract signing. This is the only thing you need to hear. She says, "Let's give the people what they want. A better champion, you cheating bitch." Yes. Thunder Rosa wins this match. Less than 5 minutes. Goes in there. Beats the living shit out of her, makes her look like, exposes her for the fraud that she is, beats her, takes the championship, resurrects, pulls it back from the grave where it has been buried for the last 9 months or so. Yeah, about 9 months. 9 months. The last 9 months, and it'll be 10 months by then, but the last 9 months, and give us a champion that the company and the fans can be proud of, because the current champion has been an absolute fucking disgrace from day one. Should have never won the championship, should have never been in championship position, and yet she's had this championship and she has run it through the mud every single time she's been on television. It's time for a fucking change. And the Faker's like, "Oh, you won the lights out match, but everybody was talking about me." You want to know why they were talking about you? Because it was the directive from Tony Khan. The fans were talking about how Thunder Rosa carried your ass from start to finish. How Thunder Rosa carried your ass in every single match you have ever had with her. Because you fucking suck. You have always sucked, and the only thing, when your career is over, the only thing you're ever going to be remembered for is being a dentist and being Adam Cole's bitch. I'm sorry, Adam Cole's fuck buddy. That's all you're ever going to be known as. And it's funny, she's like, "Rosa will never be me." It's like, why would anybody want to be you? Why would anyone want to be a third-rate wannabe professional wrestler who's been trying to get over as a serious threat when you haven't? You will never, and she says she'll never be the face of AEW, of All Elite Wrestling. Bitch, she's been the face since the moment she signed that contract. The moment they said Thunder Rosa is All Elite, she has been the face of the women's division. The only other person in this company right now who could even vie for that moniker is Serena Deeb. You have never been the face. You will never be the face. You need to go be a dentist. Go sleep with Adam Cole, because that's the only two good things you're good at. And get the fuck off our TV. Thunder Rosa wins at Revolution, or you're making the biggest mistake of your fucking life, and Tony Khan will expose himself as the biggest fucking retard in professional wrestling. Thunder Rosa beats her up. Jamie Hayter gets in there. Mercedes Martinez arrives and evens the odds. It would not surprise me if we see a tag team match on Wednesday between Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter and Rebel, because that's just the, what do you call it? The I'm trying to think of the name, the word. It's not coming to me. It's not coming to me, and I'm gonna be real angry if I think of it later. Mark Henry was speaking with Cassidy and Anthony Bowens. Cassidy didn't show what's going on. So Wheeler has to explain the situation because he thought he's going to have to climb a ladder today. Well, Utah's like, no, you just have to wrestle and beat Anthony Bowens to get to the ladder match. So Bowens them try to talk trash. Cassidy says he stopped listening. It's time for the main event. All that good stuff. Wednesday night, Adam Hangman Page, John Cena, and Alex Reynolds versus the former Undisputed Era, which I think they're going to call themselves the Paragon eventually. Casino Tag Team Royal for the final spot in the AEW Trios match, triple threat match at the pay-per-view. Tony Khan will have a huge announcement, and Jade Cargill will defend her TBS title against Tay Conti at the Revolution. Tay Conti wins, and that women's title, that TBS title, needs to just be deactivated immediately because it's nothing but it looks like trash. Jade Cargill should have never won the championship or been anywhere near it. Plain and simple. Face of the Revolution qualifier match: Orange Cassidy with Wheeler Yuta versus Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. I don't know what was with Max Caster tonight, but his rap was just meh. And he's been having some pretty good raps lately, but this guy just went out there and he didn't even try. I don't know if he was being lazy because it's Orange Cassidy, but yeah. So, he says, if you think you can do better, here you go. So, Cassidy takes the mic, says, yo, listen, puts one hand in the pocket, does his kicks, clears the ring, says, word to your mother, and does a dive. Match was mostly in picture-in-picture. That's the thing about this match. Now, Caster throws a boombox to Bowens. Referee Bryce Fenberg removes the boombox, but this allows Bowens to retake control and get another near fall. Cassidy goes to the outside where Caster's lurking, but this guy in a black shirt, all black in a mask, comes up, grabs him by the hair. Caster turns around, takes the mask off. It's Danhausen as he curses. He curses Caster. Caster gets hit with the orange punch. He rolls in the ring, hits Bowens with an orange punch, 1, 2, 3, and he is the fifth man to qualify for the Face of the Revolution ladder match. We have one spot left. Now, we'll probably leave that spot for Revolution. Maybe that's where we get a new signing. Maybe that's when somebody else comes in. So that was your Rampage review. Rampage last week was a better show in my opinion. This week was just there's just one word that described tonight's show. Yes, that's all I can think of when it comes to this show. Tonight's show wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good either. I mean, it was very impressive to see Nick come on and get powerbombed for 3.5 times, I should say. The TNT title match was fine. The main event was fine. The women's stuff was meh. Tonight's show it didn't feel up as good as the last few shows, in my opinion, have felt. Now, SmackDown. SmackDown. From Hershey, Pennsylvania. Post-Chamber edition of SmackDown is going to have a contract signing for the unification match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. But before that, Pat McAfee's back on commentary, so that's awesome. I mean, Corey Graves was okay last 2 weeks, but yeah, it's Pat McAfee. If you're going to talk about commentary, it's Pat McAfee's show on SmackDown. So, Michael Cole's in the ring. He's bringing out Ronda Rousey. Why is he bringing out Ronda Rousey? Because she has to cut a lifeless promo and talk about what made her decide to come back to WWE, since we haven't seen her since 2019. That was 3 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Now, she commented and said that, well, at WrestleMania, she broke her hand. Then, after that recovery, she broke her other hand, surprisingly. After that happened, she was pregnant with her daughter. Doesn't mention anything about 2020 being the fact that COVID happened, and I don't think Ronda Rousey was going to come back in a COVID, like a sad, depressing-looking WWE inside an empty gymnasium or the Blunder Dome. I just don't think so. Apparently, her first hand broke, then her second hand broke, and so I don't know how long it takes for a broken hand to recover. Do you mean to tell me it took you almost a year and a half to have both your hands recover, and then you had your baby, and then 4 months later was the Royal Rumble? I think she should have mentioned something about, the global pandemic. Oh, that's right, you can't talk about COVID on WWE television because that's a naughty word. You don't want it, WWE wants you to pretend like COVID never existed. We all talk about, you always hear how people make fun of people for, pretending like COVID doesn't exist. Vince McMahon wants you to pretend COVID didn't exist. I'm not trying to say anything, bad about it or anything, but, Vince McMahon, when you're watching WWE television, other than times, when Roman Reigns got sick, how many other people have been sick with COVID? How many of us actually hear about that? AJ Styles disappeared from WWE television for 3 weeks straight, dealing with COVID. Drew McIntyre, he actually said something about it because he's not stupid. Renee Paquette got COVID before. All these other talents we've seen who are mainstays on television disappear for 3 weeks with no explanation. Why? Because WWE doesn't want you to know about COVID. Why? Every other company out there mentions it when need be. But yet, WWE, it's just you can't say championship, you can't say belt, you can't say, I don't even think you can say, you can't say world champion apparently in some cases. You can't say wrestling, you throw COVID on there as well. Cole brings up Rousey's accomplishments in her WWE and pre-WWE and asked, how was winning the Rumble felt? She doesn't like to dwell on accomplishments, she already focused on what's next. Gee, that's... You could at least said how it felt. That's kind of lame. Tap out, show about 9,000, and Cole brings up how she had one arm tied behind her back, and I didn't watch the show. I saw some clips. Her arm was not tied behind her back. Her arm was on her side, for fuck's sake. Naomi defeated Flair, and Naomi and her defeated Showbot, while we see stills from the match, and McAfee talks about how Showbot focused on hurting Rousey in the match. The music interrupts, and out comes the Showbot. She takes the mic, she talks, and she talks, and she talks, and I want to fall asleep. It's all mere distraction, so Sonya Deville can attack her from behind, allowing Showbot to go and attack Ronda Rousey's leg, which apparently there's no ACL in her one knee. Did not know that. Don't really care. And lay her out. But Ronda gets back up and starts going after Deville. And Rousey stands tall. We see Big E and Kofi riding in four-wheeler backstage. They will be up against the Lethal Lovers, Los Lotharios, for the third week in a row. Adam Pearce is backstage with Sonya Deville watching what she just did to Ronda Rousey. Pearce is not happy. He says that due to Deville's actions and Ronda's request, Deville versus Ronda Rousey will take place next week. The match has been approved with upper management. I think it's time to take Sonya Deville out of the position of a general manager or whatever authority figure they have her as. It's just it's WWE just... Here's the thing. WWE ruined the heel authority figure with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon did such a good job at being a heel authority figure that everybody else who wants to be a heel authority figure just can't measure up, or they're trying to copy what Vince McMahon did. All this company wants to book is heel authority figures. You know what made people love Teddy Long so much? He was a baby face, and he did a damn good job. He was an impartial, except for when he tried to screw over The Undertaker for whatever reason. Most of the time, he was an impartial, and everybody loved him because he actually was a good one. Paige, everybody fucking loved Paige as general manager because she was a babyface who didn't take shit from anybody. I'm upset that they got rid of Paige. And when you do this whole authority thing with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, why didn't you just bring Saraya back? Why didn't you just bring Paige back? She was a great general manager. She was probably the best general manager WWE had since Teddy Long. It's like, and her time as a general manager was very short. Not even a full year. They did that whole thing at the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019, whatever it was, where they had it was the end of 2018 when they had the family meeting on Monday Night Raw and apologized to all of us and lied to our faces, as we all knew they did. And then the next Tuesday, they took the general manager role away from Paige, and we hadn't seen Paige on TV. Well, she did, I believe, go and manage. Did go to manage Kairi Sane and Asuka for a minute until they turned heel. But, yeah. I would have brought Paige in instead of having Sonya Deville be a woman who is jealous. It's clear jealousy. Jealous of Naomi, which hopefully it looks like that's over with, and they're moving to her on to getting destroyed by Ronda Rousey next week. New Day versus Los Lotharios. Why are we having this match again? Because it's a rubber match. WWE doesn't know how to book good anything. Why are you just going to do 3 matches and do a rubber match for every single match? A rubber match should be for big fights. Like Roman versus Brock. Roman wins the first one in Saudi Arabia. Brock wins the second one at day one. Just in a fantasy booking way. And then the rubber match is at WrestleMania. That's when you would have a rubber match. This is a rubber match to a feud that nobody gives a damn about. New Day wins, Midnight Hour, don't really care. We see Sam Roberts backstage. Apparently he's working for WWE more than just on kickoff shows. Cole says it's to Toyota Tundra featuring Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Booz. We go to commercial break. I don't give a shit. Sheamus and Rich Holland stop Biggie and Kofi Kingston backstage on the quad backstage. They taunt Big New Day, and Sheamus calls them out for fight night, saying they'd have to use 4-wheelers to carry their asses out. Kofi and Biggie drive off, frustrating Sheamus and Holland. Obviously, that must be the next step for the New Day to bury Ridge Holland even more. A guy who never really who really didn't spend much time in NXT because he got injured, and then was brought up to SmackDown in the draft and became a Sheamus fanboy. Sam Roberts is backstage with tag team champions Usos. Sam brings up the WrestleMania 38 contract signing. Jay says this is for the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. No. This is not the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. Hogan vs. Andre is still the biggest WrestleMania match of all time because of its context and what it did to help solidify the staying power of the WWF in the 80s. Yes, the first WrestleMania was there 2 years prior. But WrestleMania 1 and 2 never had that big match. WrestleMania had 2 big matches in different ways. Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat was that match that is one that you talk about for how good it was at the time. The other one is Hogan and Andre. Was the match good? Absolutely not. But the match, like Hogan slamming Andre, is a moment that lasts eternity. Because without that big moment, WrestleMania, we probably don't even have WrestleMania. WWE probably doesn't last. WWE, we don't have Roman versus Brock right now. We don't have The Rock. We don't have Stone Cold Steve Austin. WWE probably goes downhill. And who knows what happens with professional wrestling. Like WrestleMania 3 was a bigger deal than anything else that you've seen over the last 10 years for what it did for the company. It put them on the map for professional wrestling. It put WWE, it pretty much set WWE up for what we see today. This is not the biggest match in wrestling, in WrestleMania match of all time. Not even close. It's going to unify two titles that have gone, and retire one championship that has been cursed for the last 6 years of its entire existence. Outside of Roman Reigns this time, and every single one of Brock Lesnar runs, and every single one of Goldberg's runs, everyone else, Roman Reigns wins the Universal title the first time, comes down with has a resurface of leukemia. Finn Balor wins it the first time. What happens to him? He gets injured. Night 1. Has to relinquish the championship. Kevin Owens had a lackluster championship reign end by Goldberg. Brock Lesnar holds it for 544 days in his first title reign. Seth Rollins had a forgettable title reign. The Fiend had a forgettable title reign that ended from Goldberg. Then he wins it again and holds it for a fucking week when Roman Reigns wins it at the pay-per-view the week after SummerSlam, only to hold the title and promptly retire it, the greatest Universal Champion probably of all time. No, this is not the greatest match of all time. It would be the greatest match of all time, maybe, if we hadn't seen Brock versus Roman at 3 other WrestleManias, right? 3 or 2. 2 or 3. At least 2 other WrestleManias. And a SummerSlam. And a Saudi show. And was supposed to be at day 1. So no. The fact that this is like the 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th time we've seen these guys on pay-per-view takes away from the specialness of this match. Plain and simple. He says WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns will put in the work and WWE Champion like they will do with the Viking Raiders. They talk trash. The Viking Raiders attack them, demanding their title shots. They will get it next week. Megan Raiders backstage with Xia Li now as Lee says she was waiting for this moment in her life. Lee says she worked so hard in WWE NXT and always dreaming of competing on SmackDown. She is nervous but also confident because she is the protector and tonight Natalya will need protection. Can I ask something? How long has Xia Li been on that SmackDown? When did she make her debut? November? She's just now having her first match? Why? Why did it take so long? You had that her debut where she came out and saved Naomi from a 3-on-1 beatdown from Shayna Baszler. By the way, where's Shayna Baszler? We haven't seen her since the Rumble. But Shayna Baszler, Natalya, and Sonya Deville. And then the next week, you had her cut a promo on Natalya. Why didn't you book a match between those two the week after that? Why didn't you have her in-ring debut? Why did it take so long to have her in-ring debut? From the day that she made her debut on television after her couple coming soon videos, where she's supposed to be the real-life female, what the fuck is it? Oh, Shang-Chi. There you go. I really couldn't care less about this match. She hits her with a big spinning heel kick, and Xia Li wins the match. Range up, Lee stands at hers. We got to replay Lee's bout to the crowd as all sides. As to tell yells at her from ringside. Hopefully that's the end of that. Sami Zayn comes out dressed up in a suit as he heads to the ring for a championship celebration. Has a nice little table display stand for his title. As he talks and he gloats about being able to overcome the conspiracy and being the Intercontinental Champion again after, I don't know, a year and a half. Says, who is man enough to come out and challenge me for the Intercontinental Championship? And who would come out? Johnny Knoxville. And I will say this to any fan who chanted Johnny. Fuck you. Anybody who was cheering for Johnny Knoxville, fuck you. You are the problem. You agree with Vince McMahon booking Johnny Knoxville for an Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania over the likes of a Ricochet. And you wonder why Cesaro wanted to fucking leave. Why the hell would Cesaro want to stick around in a place that's going to give a talentless hack in Johnny Knoxville, who only got famous for abusing his own body, a match at WrestleMania when guys like Ricochet, who's going to get an Intercontinental title match next week, he's going to lose, obviously. But guys like Ricochet, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Cesaro before he left, all these guys could have been in this spot, but no, we got to give it to Johnny Knoxville. Why are you wasting a WrestleMania spot on Johnny fucking Knoxville? Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn could be a rematch, but apparently that's not going to happen. Maybe Shinsuke Nakamura is injured again. Who knows? Maybe you could have had Brick Boogs stand up for his mentor or stand up for his pal Shinsuke and get the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania. But no, we have to go with Johnny Knoxville. This pay-per-view WrestleMania is getting weaker and weaker. It's a one-match show, in my opinion, and it's a two-night show. Right now, I mean, if you give me Edge versus AJ Styles on night 1 and you have Roman versus Brock on night 2, it's a two-match show. And that's it. I don't give a shit who Damian Priest defends against. I don't give a shit who, anything else. And you have Logan Paul on this card. You're going to have Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn on this card. Anybody in the Percy, Pennsylvania who was chanting for Johnny Knoxville, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. You're okay with a hack like Johnny Knoxville, who has no fucking talent, who would go out there and just hurt himself and abuse his body, and that's what got him to rise to stardom. He ain't got no fucking talents. If anyone else wants to go out there and abuse their body, and trust me, there are people who do, they could be the same as Johnny Knoxville. Why are we wasting a WrestleMania spot on Johnny Knoxville? Do you think Kurt Hennig or Shawn Michaels or Razor Ramon would have wanted to have a match with a wannabe celebrity like Johnny Knoxville for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania? Hell no. Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig and any other former and Randy Savage are probably rolling in their grave knowing that a title they helped make prestigious is being dragged through the mud because they're going to give the championship title opportunity to a guy like Johnny fucking Knoxville. And again, anybody in Hershey, Pennsylvania, anybody at home who thinks this is okay, go fuck yourself. This is a load of garbage. Sami Zayn beats him up. That is all that. I don't want to spend another moment on this. We get a video of Black History Month, Ambassador 2020 Warrior Award recipient Titus O'Neil. The video is focused on the Bullard Family Foundation, non-profit, and Titus working down on the community. I believe his last name is Bullard. Why couldn't we call him Titus Bullard? Titus O'Neil is just, man. Titus Bullard sounds like a better wrestling name. I'm just saying. Sami Zayn's in the back ranting about what happened with Johnny Knoxville and all that stuff. Pierce isn't thrilled with Sami. Ricochet walks up and interrupts. He knows Sami and Pierce have a lot to get on right now. But he heard Sami and he says he wanted to be fighting champion and he has to step up to fight. And of course that match is made for next week. So yeah. That is what you're getting next week. That could absolutely be a good match. Honestly, I think it's going to be. But my God. Honestly, this year's WrestleMania is one of those ones where it's like, I just want to watch Roman versus Brock, and I don't care about the rest. There is nothing else on this card. I don't care about Bianca versus Becky. I would care more if you didn't do the bullshit at SummerSlam, or if you did, you didn't have them have a match again until WrestleMania. Make Becky hold her away from the title until WrestleMania, but you didn't do that. I don't give a shit about Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. Hard fucking stuff. Thank God AEW exists. Thank the wrestling gods that AEW exists. Because Revolution's coming up, and it is going to be 10 million, gazillion, whatever one number you want to put on it, better than WrestleMania in every single way. So we go to our next match. Sasha Banks comes to the ring, and Shotzi Blackheart is in the middle of the ring. My God, has she fallen from grace? She lost her tank, lost her changed her attitude, turned heel, and is nothing but a catering VIP, and is now getting a jobber's entrance. She loses in about 2 minutes to the Banks statement. Naomi was on commentary, and I'm like, why is Naomi on commentary? What is her correlation? What does she have to do with this? Well, she comes to the ring, gets on the mic, and says, I'm just going to say one thing. You are looking at the next Women's Tag Team Champions. Okay. Here's the thing. What happens after they win the titles? What comes next? You don't have any tag teams. I'm fine if there was enough women on these rosters to have legitimate tag teams. If you had legitimate tag teams and they actually worth a damn, then yeah. I would care. But it's like the women's tag team titles have been irrelevant since the day the women's tag team titles were lost by Sasha Banks and them at Sasha Banks and Bayley lost them at WrestleMania a couple years ago. I just don't care. Moving on to the happy folks. I will say, Madcap Moss is a lucky, lucky man. That dude should be dead. That bump he took. He should be dead. He should be paralyzed, or he should be fully paralyzed or half paralyzed from whatever, from the neck down. This dude is lucky to be a survivor. Now, apparently he played football, and when you play football, in whatever position you work on, you gotta make your neck muscles work. You gotta work your neck muscle, work them out, get them strong, tough, and beefy. That's what saved his life, plain and simple. That was scary. Right now he's good, but it could be one of these things that when we get further down the line, it could come back to haunt him. This is something I feel like with the way that bump looked, that it's going to come back and haunt him later in life. Just saying. So we get to the match. Madcap Moss. Well, it's supposed to be Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin. Corbin's like, you know what? No. I'm gonna talk my buddy into taking this match. They have the match. Of course, before the match started, Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss beat down Drew McIntyre to give him advantage. Drew McIntyre, Madcap Moss, Madcap has some advantage for a bit. Corbin, Moss, the ending was great though, because Moss, Drew McIntyre is down on one knee. Moss decides he's gonna run to one rope, run to the other, run back, and come for something. And McIntyre just pops up and hits him with the Claymore. Out of nowhere. Damn, what a finish. 1, 2, 3 gets us the win, and that is that. So, that is that. Marion is backstage with Ronda Rousey. She's asked about next Friday's match against Sonya Deville. Rousey says all the times Deville has messed with her and bullied Naomi. Next week, she'll show how everyone what happens when authority figures step out of line and Rousey walks off. It would not surprise me if Ronda Rousey win next week. Vince McMahon comes strolling out and is like, Sonya Deville, as far as your GM role, you're fired. Whatever. Go to the WrestleMania 38 contract signing. Man, I wish it was 10 years ago. 2012 was such a nice small time for me. I was only 22. I was still young, still somewhat dumb, all that good stuff. Time to talk about that later. Out comes the Bloodline. Universal Champion Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The Usos, Heyman hands the title to Reigns, raises it while the Usos raise their gold in the air and the pyro goes off. Reigns hits the ring. We go to commercial break, back from break, and Adam Pearce is at the table for the contract signing. The Bloodline is also in the ring, and the ring is full of security. Reigns takes a seat at the table. Heyman takes the mic and goes on about how this winner-take-all title unification match, WrestleMania, he goes on about how this is bigger than Hulk versus Andre, Austin versus The Rock, and bigger than when he conquered the undefeated streak, Undertaker's undefeated streak, which he will give only half credit to the Beast. Heyman comments about being bigger than those 3 legendary matches. He goes on hyping the match and says, these security guards are here to protect the Beast from his own impulsiveness and to protect him from his own tribal chief. Heyman says that ladies and gentlemen, it is what you call a cliffhanger, and they go to commercial break. After break, Chairman and it's been announced that Vince McMahon is going to be on the Pat McAfee show. And I have a feeling that's where whatever they're going to do with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania is going to start. Are we going to get Pat McAfee versus Vince McMahon at WrestleMania? Please no. Please no. We go to ring, and out comes Brock Lesnar. Lesnar heads to the ring and enters the place of the strap on the table, stares at Reigns and starts laughing. Reigns stares up from the chair with a very pissed off look on his face. He just wants this shit over with. Lesnar takes the mic and addresses Reigns as Mr. Acknowledgement and Heyman as Mr. Dick. Gets a laugh. That's the new reigning defending heavyweight champion shtick. Lesnar says he must contain himself a little bit here. He admits he is very impulsive and says if you think for 1 second these skid-marked security guards will stop him from jumping the table and kicking Roman's ass and Heyman's and the Usos' ass, they have another thing coming. What is stopping Brock Lesnar from doing that is Brock Lesnar. He's going to sign this contract because he's kicking their asses at WrestleMania, and he can bet he's getting paid for it. Pierce hands in the contract to Lesnar next. Heyman rants about how he's tired of Lesnar. Lesnar laughs. Heyman says this will not be a unification match because Lesnar won't be the WWE title when he gets to WrestleMania because he's losing it next Saturday at Madison Square Garden. Reigns takes the contract and signs it. Pierce walks away with the contract. Reigns says Lesnar, the foreign boy, must be confused because the WWE title belongs to Reigns. Stands up and he goes about how he's going to smash Lesnar about this. How this is his ring. That cameraman, he's my cameraman. These guys down here, they're my guys. This is my show. Everything here. This WrestleMania sign is his because he is WrestleMania. He runs everything and everyone works for him. Lesnar stands in the ring. Reigns says, speaking from ringside, everyone works for him, including the security guards in the ring. They surround Lesnar and they put their fists up. Lesnar flips the table, beats every single one of these guys to a pulp. Lesnar drops 2 guards with the F5. Bloodline looks on from the entranceway, looking a bit worried. SmackDown goes off the air with Lesnar standing tall. And they actually hit 10 o'clock. Surprisingly. SmackDown actually went to 10 o'clock. They never do that. Anyway. The segment was good. It's a unification match. It's signed. It's sealed. It's delivered. We are going to WrestleMania. We are going to have one champion. Which I feel bad for anybody who is going to think they're going to be able to be in the running to hopefully have a WWE title run between now and WrestleMania 39. It's not gonna happen, sons. It's gonna be Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns only. Damian Priest, you could have been a WWE champion, but now you're going to lose the US Championship one of these days and then be fed to Roman Reigns. AJ Styles will be fed to Roman Reigns just like he was in 2016. And so on and so forth. Just, yeah. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that this company, like anyone else is going to be able to do, but just sit back and watch as Roman Reigns is going to hold on to the championships, retire the Universal title, one of the most cursed championships in all of WWE history, and reign as the WWE champion. That was SmackDown. It was meh. It wasn't mid, it was meh. We'll have to see what happens next week as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania. I guess we got to pay attention to what happens on the Pat McAfee show on Thursday because Vince McMahon himself is going to be there. Anything can happen on that show, as it's Vince and Pat. Pat could end up losing his job at WWE if he doesn't impress the boss or whatever. But that is your SmackDown and Rampage review. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Minds at the Frowns Club. Find me on Twitch.tv/The Frowns Club, and find me on Instagram at The Frowns Club. And I will see you guys on Monday for Raw. Until then, my name is The Frowns, and I'll see you guys later.